Welcome back to 120 Sports, ladies and gentlemen. It's me, Nick Hausman, joined as always here by Justin LaBar. And Justin and I are here today to chat about a sadder story in the world of professional wrestling. At the age of 73, WWE Hall of Famer Jimmy Superfly Snuka has passed away after battling stomach cancer. Justin, you hear this news, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Another legend lost, sad. Maybe this one even ripples through the wrestling world a little bit more because, Snuka's part of not all by blood, mostly by marriage, but part of a long line of wrestling talents that all share a brotherly and sisterly bond. So, sad news. We knew he had been in bad health for a while. We knew he had terminal illness, and, so it's unfortunate to see another legend gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, most notably recently, of course, Jimmy Snuka had made more probably negative headlines than anything else. Of course, the murder trial reopened in the, I believe it was a 1983 murder case with Nancy Argentino, his former girlfriend. Kind of unfortunate, Justin, that seems to be the kind of final image of Jimmy Snuka, and I think a lot of the minds of a lot of fans.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's on the one hand, the fact that the charges were dropped and everything was basically dismissed 12 days ago or 12 days prior to his death. On the one hand, I guess it's good, it at least gave some closure that, okay, it's not like he passed away while the litigation was still pending, so to speak. But yeah, on the other hand, that's been a common thing that people are talking about. I mean, as soon as the announcement came on, and went through social media, unfortunately, that was the predominant topic was, how does WWE acknowledge this? Do they acknowledge him? People putting their own 2 cents for whatever it's worth, towards this. So it is unfortunate, but we also have to remember that the reality and facts are, while it's a tragedy, obviously, that his girlfriend, passed away in 1983. The reality is he was never found. He never got to trial. He was never ultimately, sentenced and found guilty. So, he's not the first entertainer to have some sort of a mess, unfortunately, inside of his legacy. But I think the important thing is not to just focus on that, not to let that be the definition of his legacy. We need to focus on the innovation of the high flying that he did for professional wrestling, sports entertainment. Focus, on the positives that there were in his very lengthy career.
Absolutely, yes, and legacy. That's really important here when you talk about these legends, these Hall of Famers when they pass away. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are able to separate the man from the character. Jimmy Snuka, a lot of stories, a lot of wild stories. If you've ever read Bill Apter's book, I mean, there's a chapter in there all about a crazy night in Hawaii with Jimmy Snuka. That is, we don't have time for it here. But Jimmy Snuka was a bit of a wild man, but the character of Jimmy Snuka, was very inspiring. I mean, most notably, one of the people that he inspired to get into the business was, of course, Mick Foley, who sat front row and watched Jimmy Snuka do that splash off the top of the steel cage, I believe, in Madison Square Garden. He's talked about it. He's written about it. And without that moment, we would not have gotten Mick Foley. So without a character like Jimmy Superfly Snuka, it's hard to think about all the things we wouldn't have today. And of course, you mentioned his style as well. I mean, certainly for a big man, was doing a lot of moves that you didn't see from guys in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, he took the babyface, he took the babyface style to a whole new level. I mean, obviously, we still today, associate high spots and high flying to be more of a moveset that a babyface would use, and he was the trendsetter to that. I mean, he was the charismatic babyface. He wasn't the only one. There's other guys, Superstar Billy Graham, and there's other guys from that era. But he was one of the big trailblazers of a babyface with charisma and swagger and jive before there was ever Hulkamania. So we have to remember that. I mean, another, you talk about Mick Foley, another kind of part of it's right place, right time. But he was the first opponent for the Undertaker at WrestleMania. He was the first, the first victory in the long, 21-0 streak that went on for so many years. So Jimmy Snuka's had a lot of bright spots to look back on. A wild character. Sure, he's made mistakes. Everybody has. But I still think it's important to remember he's got a very loving family, many of whom we still see on television today. So it's definitely a loss for the wrestling and entertainment world.
Yeah, and we talk about classic moments. I mean, how could you ever forget Jimmy Snuka, Piper's Pit, an actual coconut, Justin? Piper took actual coconut. He laid out this man with this coconut. I mean, you don't see things like that on television anymore.
Yeah, no, another great moment. You're right, another great one.
And last but not least, of course, before we wrap this up, while we're talking about Jimmy's legacy, I think we would be remiss to not note, of course, the person who seems to have publicly broken the news, his daughter, WWE superstar Tamina Snuka. She's going to be the one to carry on that legacy of Jimmy Superfly Snuka alongside, Charlotte Flair carrying on the legacy of her father. Very interesting time for the women's division.
It is, and it's interesting that you put it in that perspective. Obviously, we've talked about Tamina, and Tamina was the one who announced it with her Instagram and announced the passing of her father. But you're right, just the way you frame it there is that we're in a very heavy second, third generation time period. We look at the amount of second and third generation stars, especially Charlotte Flair playing off of Rick, and there's other ones that we've seen, even Cody Rhodes and such. So it's very interesting when we start to have these unfortunate losses, how that then I don't want to say plays, but how it reflects and how it affects things potentially on television. Because we're in a heavy second, third generation era right now. So as these older guys and gals from the earlier generations as they leave us, it certainly puts an impact on today's top stars.
Absolutely. Well, we'd love to hear all of your thoughts out there as well from the fans, your memories of Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Please head over to Twitter at 120 Sports. Leave us a note, and Justin and I will be back this week with even more pro wrestling punditry.